The Cincinnati Bengals have signed T. Higgins and Jamar Chase to two enormous fat daddy contracts. The Bengals are going for it. The Bengals are saying, we think we can win with these four players, basically, with Joe Burrow, Trey Hendrickson, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins, and they're going to figure out the rest. So we're going to talk about that today. The headline, Bengals signed Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to two historic contracts, may have doomed themselves. Pat McAfee shows the backdrop. Let's go ahead and listen and react along the way.
Let's talk about the NFL, most specifically Cincinnati, Ohio. They get Jamar Chase and T. Higgins' deals done. Jamar Chase becomes the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the NFL, $40.25 a year.
Crazy.
You see, if Myles Garrett's going to get 40, I'll get a little bit more than that. He certainly did. And T. Higgins becomes the highest paid number 2 wideout in the history of the NFL, both over $100 million. Now, granted, the Super Bowl champions have paid 2 wideouts at a very high clip. They also paid a quarterback a high number. They've now paid their running back at a high number, and they were able to win the Super Bowl. Now, there are a lot of young dogs on the defense. They were able to build.
All right, so Pat just kind of hinted at what the Bengals are going to have to do. If you are a Bengals fan, if you are a supporter of the Cincinnati Bengals, this is exactly what you wanted the Bengals to do. The Bengals have been, for pretty much their entire history, stereotyped as a team that was afraid to spend. They were a team that would rather have room in the salary cap than good players. They were a team that historically didn't do this kind of stuff. They didn't do these kind of deals. But they're also a franchise that didn't historically have Joe Burrow and didn't historically have Jamar Chase. They have made the decision, whether it is because of the players, whether it's because of, have they had conversations with Joe Burrow? I don't know. But they have made the decision to kind of go back on what they usually do, and they are going for it. They are saying, we believe we can win with this core. We believe that as long as this core is healthy, then we can win a Super Bowl. And they are, for the lack of a better term, mortgaging the future for the right now. If you're a Bengals fan, congratulations. Your window is open. Will it lead to a Lombardi? I don't know about that, but they're taking their shot. Now, in order for this to work, you do have to hit through the draft. No doubt about it. When you pay players like this, just like Pat mentioned with Philadelphia, you have to have studs on rookie contracts. You have to have Jalen Carter. You have to have players like that. The Cincinnati Bengals defense has been horrific. They just fired their DC. They are going to have one of the least invested in defenses. So what that means is they got to get value. They got to get really high-level players on really low contracts. The easiest way to do that is rookie contracts. So that is going to be the deciding factor on if this works. The deciding factor on if Cincinnati can break through and make good on this investment is if they can get their defense to a average-ish level through the draft and through low-paid players.
Build up an offensive line, become the best in the NFL, and go on a run. What does this deal or these deals say to you, AJ? And what is most important now for the Bengals to get back into the relevancy of the Super Bowl? They're going to be able to score. They're going to be able to light it up. I think if they hit on a couple key pieces, welcome back Bengals. Is that how you're feeling? Is that how Ohio feels?
Yeah, this is I feel like this is a turning point for the Bengals as a franchise, as an organization. What do you think of when people think of the Bengals? They think, oh, they're
cheap,
family run, they're cheap, They don't want to spend money, they're not going to do this. But we know we've talked about the indoor facility they have now, and I didn't think there was a chance that they were going to sign both these guys. I thought they were only going to be able to find a way to get Jamar done. But
I thought Higgins was gone. TBH, because the Bengals don't do this. Like, this is something they just don't do. I think they would have kept Jamar. But I thought, okay, Higgins is probably out the door. They'll find something. But this is, and I can't prove it. But I have to assume this is very Joe Burrow related. Because when they make that investment in Burrow, that move right there is saying, we believe we can win with this guy. And if you're going to make that kind of investment in Joe Burrow, you almost are forced to go all in. there's no point. I mean, he's the face of the franchise, very marketable player for the first time in a long time. The Bengals are hyper relevant. They're a marketable team. They're a fun team. So this is kind of a domino effect of that. Is once you make that first initial investment, you kind of have to do this.
I believe what Rap Sheet last week said it's definitely possible that they're going to get both these guys done, and now they're talking about their ongoing talks with Trey Hendrickson. If they get
that'll get done. I can go ahead and promise you, because of this, that will get done. You don't make this move if you don't make that move. This is their core. This is their group. I'll bring it back to the Saints because that's primarily what we cover here. But this is the Marshawn Lattimore, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara. Like, this is that. You have that core now. You have your core group. This is the foundation. This is the foundation of the team that they believe that they can win the Super Bowl with. Is it very offensively leaned? Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. I mean, they are opening themselves up to serious vulnerability defensively. But now the problem is the Bengals have not been a great talent development. We can call it drafting. You may want to call it however you want to, however you want to say it. They haven't historically done that in the past defensively. So now they're going to have to kind of do something they haven't done, which is nail these draft picks defensively, get it figured out. But if they can do that, that's the wager. They know now what they have to do. They know now we hit on these draft picks defensively, we probably position ourselves to win a Super Bowl.
Get Trey back as well, then this is like turning the page. This is a new Bengals organization.
Before we dive into Trey Hendrickson, for these two dudes, congratulations.
Unreal. Yeah, I mean, GG.
And to your point about Cincinnati Bengals spending money, to the Bengals fans, congratulations.
Yeah.
This is a fantastic time to be a Bengals fan. You got a quarterback from Ohio. He's got his pieces that he absolutely loves, and your team's investing and doing business. You talk about that indoor facility. He also sold the naming rights to the stadium for the first time in the history. So it's like, welcome to the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm excited to see if it works out. Now, with Trey Hendrickson, there's been a lot of different reports.
It's so funny, man. Like, I can tell, like, Pat right here, he's fighting for his effing life not to belch fucking whoa, James, Jesus, dropped the F-bomb in the middle of the video. Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies. What the hell's got into me? Sorry about that. My apologies. I mean, damn, I know this is a family channel, but let one slip there. But Pat is doing everything he can not to vomit all over his microphone. That's the position, that's the voice. I've had to do it a million times. We'll see if he can fight the demons or if he has to excuse himself off camera and let it rip.
A lot of different. I believe Diana Rossini tweeted sources say Cincinnati is working to retain Trey Hendrickson and discussions are ongoing between the two sides. The Bengals are attempting to do what many in the league thought difficult and keep and pay all three of their stars. Then Jeremy Fowler put out a tweet this morning that was basically alluding to the same thing about the pieces that would have to fall in place for a deal with Trey Hendrickson to take place. That feels difficult. That feels like
really difficult.
That feels like a very tough move at this particular case, especially what the market is for a sack king like player. Hopefully, we'll be.
I have to go back of the napkin math. I'm pretty sure they have carved out 30-ish. I think they have the 30-ish milli carved out to do this. We'll see, but from what I understand, this will get done, but it'll be they paid these guys and nobody else can get monies.
Be able to learn more over the next few days, but this one feels very difficult. So I understand that they've said that they were going to sign T and Jamar, and T even put out a cap thing, and then they get the deal done. And I understand they said they're going to sign Trey Hendrickson as well. But in the modern world, this one feels like it's going to be difficult to get done, just because he's coming off his best season. He's the best in the league, and this is potentially the last time deal is going to happen for Trey. So that'll be impressive. If Duke does this, you're talking about magician with this entire thing, and obviously we're pulling for him.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem possible.
It's so interesting, man, because it really shows how perception is your reality. I think you'll hear two things. I think you'll hear from the outside from non-Bengals fans, non-Bengal, watchers or whatever, I think you'll hear this is a mess. They shouldn't have done this. You're putting way too much stock into 4 players. You're cooking your salary cap for the future. You're going to eat all this dead cap in 6 years. You're messing up. You can't sign this. You can't sign that. You're going to hear a lot of that. But then from Cincinnati fans, you'll hear, this is great. We're back. This is exactly what we wanted. We're good. We've got this money here. We do this, this, and this. Okay, we draft some players here. We just got to be manageable here. This is what we want. And I think that's probably closer to the truth is on the Bengals side, where who really cares what this thing looks like in 6 years? Who really cares what this looks like in the second contracts or whatever? Who cares about the dead cap in 2029? Who cares about the AAV you're paying these guys in 2030? Like, who cares about that? You got Joe Burrow in his prime. You got Jamar Chase in his prime. You got T. Higgins in his prime. You got Trey Hendrickson at the back, whatever. You had him at his peak last year, and now you just have him. It's not his prime. His prime, I would assume, is last year. But go win. Try and win. Who cares about, clipping coupons? Who cares about, you don't get extra points for having more money, however much money under the cap. Go try and win. If it puts you in hard times in 6-7 years, whatever. This is exactly what you want your team to do. This is exactly what I have been saying the Saints, kudos to the Saints for doing for however long, with quote unquote kicking the can and restructuring and keeping their core players together. In 4 or 5 years, will Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow still be at the peak of their powers? Who the hell knows? But we know right now they are. We know right now they're at the peak of their powers. So do you want to go 9-8? Do you want to go 10-7 with a little bit of salary cap relief? Or do you want to YOLO it, balls to the wall, and see if you can go win something? So injuries, who knows, right? We saw with Michael Thomas in New Orleans. You're a couple injuries away from, $100 million looking kind of dumb. But I don't fault a team. I don't fault a front office for investing in their good players. I'm happy for the fan base. I think the Bengals are fun, exciting to watch. I think this is the right move.
If you look at Max Crosby, what he get? $91.5 million guaranteed, and then Myles Garrett got $110 million guaranteed. I forget if that number is correct, but it was north of $100 million. And both those guys didn't have the year that Trey Hendrickson did. And sure, Trey's 30, 31, but then there's reports about teams from GMs that they're calling, and the asking price for Trey is impossible to meet. Yeah, so it does feel like one of those situations where, unfortunately for Trey Hendrickson, he's about to bite the hey, this is how Cincinnati does business bullet.
No, Cincinnati's new business.
Yeah, well, we know how that works. And the T and Jamar thing is incredible. The fact that they could get that done is awesome. But, you posted something on X last night, and it was just a question. Is this style of ball, is pouring $125 million in cap hit between your quarterback and 2 wide receivers, is this, a way to get back to the Super Bowl? Yeah, there it is. Can Cincy make it back to the Super Bowl? And
2-part question. No, this alone is not how you get back to the Super Bowl, because it has to be this, but then you have to derive value out of players on your defense. You have to find, whether that's young players, and there's multiple ways to do it. Like Philly did it. Again, let's use Philly. Okay, they pay Jalen, they pay Devontae, they pay AJ, they pay Saquon. But where was the real value? Where was the real value from Philadelphia? Zach Bond, all-pro, cheap contract. Jalen Carter, right? Rookies, young players. That's where their value. That's what won them the Super Bowl. Cooper DeJean. Those are the guys who won the Super Bowl for the Eagles. Rookie contracts, finding value defensively when you pay your offense. The Bengals are going to have to be the exact same way. You paid Chase, you paid Higgins, you'll pay Hendrickson, you have Burrow. Okay. Can you find Zach Bond? Can you find Jalen Carter? Can you find Cooper DeJean? Can you find these guys? Can you find them in free agency? Can you find them in the draft? That is going to be the way to win. That is going to be the actual way to get back to the Super Bowl. So, can they do it? We'll see.
I think if we've learned anything from the past 2 Super Bowls, no is the answer. And I know it stinks for Cincy. And
Eagles paid 2 guys. They paid a quarterback.
Yeah, for $100 million less than what the Cincinnati Bengals just did.
But salary cap went up.
But the salary cap did go up, absolutely. But the thing is, too, the Eagles have those very pivotal positions on defense locked in with the draft, and Cincinnati can absolutely draft guys. And I saw a report that was kind of mind-blowing, and that was that the Bengals are really going to have to nail their draft picks on defense, which, holy shit, I didn't even think of that. Maybe they do that, and then they're fine, and it doesn't really matter. But the thing with the Eagles is they did nail their draft picks, all of them, at the most important positions, the D-line.
Yeah, don't forget, Philadelphia brought in Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio. They get all-pro Zach Bond. They get Defensive Rookie of the Year. They get Jalen. All that happened. So, and that's where, like I said, if you step back and you lose some of that context and you're just viewing this from 10,000 feet up, and you're like, well, this is a disaster. You're spending all of your salary cap, dead cap this, dead cap that, salary cap this, salary cap that. But in reality, none of that stuff matters. What matters is, okay, you went all in here, you doubled down. Your way out is cheap contracts and the draft. Nail it. Now, if you don't nail it, you fail. Okay, it is what it is. But you took the chance, took the risk. The Eagles, very successful in finding those valuable players in the draft and in free agency. Cincy, can they get their version of Vic Fangio? This is a first-year DC situation. Okay. Worked for Philly. Can it work for Cincy? You know what you got to do.
Line in the corners. And so it's one of those situations. And, the Chiefs even and the Rams going back to the Super Bowl from the 2023 season. That was a ground and pound. Hey, we're going to beat you up. We're going to hold on to the ball. It's going to be, possession.
Well, look at the Rams. The Rams were rebuilding. The Rams were cooked, right? Aaron Donald's retiring. Sean McVay might retire. Whatever, they thought the window was over. Then all of a sudden, well, damn, they found Puka Nacua. They found Kyron Williams. They found Jared Verse. All of a sudden, the Rams' Super Bowl window is right back open. What happened? Cheap, good players, or cheap, good contracts, or cheap contracts, good players.
Versus what Cincinnati seems to be fixing to do, which is still electrifying football. That, it is cool to watch them throw it all over the yard, and a lot of fantasy teams are going to have their players.
The Eagles have the best offensive line in football.
Boom.
That's a whole other conversation about whenever you start comparing the team. Well, they paid 2 wide receivers, paid the quarterback, even paid the running back. It's they have the best offensive line in ball. They lose Jason Kelsey, still have the best offensive line in
prepared.
Football. That is a massive ordeal. Can Joey B stay upright? If he can, the offense can go. Now, how are you going to stop the other team? And are you going to be able to give your defense enough rest? I don't know. I'm excited to see their vision, because obviously Duke is a good football mind. They were in a Super Bowl just a few years ago. Yeah. So can they replicate that? We shall see.
Yeah.
The other, a question that's probably worth posing is, are they as close as they think they are? This is a team that is back-to-back 9-8 seasons. This is a team with some injury concerns, team with some other holes. Yes, they're flashy. Yeah, they're fun. But are they flashy and fun, or are they a legitimate contender? That's a different conversation, too. They are, no doubt about it, fun, flashy. Joe Burrow's cool. Joe Burrow's got swag, whatever. The white uniforms, what do they call it? The saber-tooth tiger uniforms, they look awesome. But 9-8 back-to-back years, yes, there's some injuries in there, obviously, that caused that 9-8, but are you really that close? That certainly a different conversation for a different day, but that is a worthy question to ask.
Yeah, if I'm a Bengals fan, I'm spinning it like this and I've watched terrible offensive football over the last however many years. I think it's easier to get better quicker on the defensive side. So if you are going to pay a side, I think the right side to pay is offense. So because you're not going to it's just the Eagles went from 26th in 2023 in defense. They get a new DC, which the Bengals are going to do. And then as long as you hit on your first 2 draft picks, and they're incredible corners, and they turn out to be great, and you're off your defensive line youngins, they're playing well too. You get pretty good on defense pretty quickly.
Okay.
No doubt. Like, defense is super volatile. I mean, 100%. Defense is the one defense way more than offense. Like, a really good running back, a really good wide receiver, a really good quarterback, like, that's way more consistent than finding your Zach Bond. Finding these guys. You can put in, like, defense is one of those things where you get an edge rusher in the 3rd, 4th round who just kind of gets lightning in a bottle, gets you 10 sacks. All of a sudden, it's like, well, damn, yeah, he's one of the best edge rushers in the league. Like, he's a huge impact guy. It's much harder to find that in a running back. It's much harder to find that in a wide receiver or a quarterback specifically. So I do agree, if you are going to invest, that's why I say don't invest in cornerbacks. Like, cornerbacks are so volatile. Play to play, the best cornerback in the NFL can get absolutely destroyed during a game, can get absolutely destroyed on 3rd and 9. Whoever you think the best cornerback in the game is, on 3rd and 9, he can get just cooked. And then the next play in our next game be locked down. So defense is absolutely more volatile. If it was me, this is the route I would go. I would invest in my quarterback. I would invest in my playmakers. I would invest in offensive linemen. And then I'm rotating defensive players. I'm treating bullpen or defense almost like a bullpen, where you ride the hot hand, you bring players in, bring players out, try and keep them on cheap contracts, and hope your offense can carry.
Okay, so congrats to the Bengals and today's boys.
Yeah.
Trey Hendrickson, I don't want to be a bearer of negative news, but that feels like that's going to be tough. That feels like that's going to be tough. Only 1 year left on his deal. This is from Jeremy Fowler. A few things to keep in mind as the Bengals try to extend Trey Hendrickson. Uptick in talks occurred late last week before the Higgins chase started to get locked in. There's definitely trade interest, but the Bengals have not shown an eagerness to deal him. Okay, we've heard the same thing. This will inevitably be a new money issue. Currently owed $16 million in 2025. So even since he offers 2 years, $60 million, that makes 3 for $76. This dynamic is a factor here. Yeah, because 90-something became number for Max just a few weeks ago. So, how will they be able to do it? Duke was able to get it done with the wide receivers. So hopefully he'll be able to do it with Trey, but that seems unlikely. But if it is unlikely, how come they won't
let him go
entertain some trade?
I think this is exactly like how we see it with the Saints and other teams, where all of a sudden you're going to hear Joe Burrow restructured, salary drops, bonuses go up in 2028. That frees up blank amount of money to give Trey Hendrickson blank deal. Like, that's just how it's going to work. They're going to move stuff around. They're going to convert salaries to bonuses and front load this contract and back load this contract and dead cap this. And then all of a sudden, Trey Hendrickson will get $100 million. And everyone's going to be sitting here going, well, how the hell did they pay him $100 million? Because the cap's fugazi.
It talks.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's all they're negotiating through the media as well. I would imagine they want to get if they're going to deal him, they want you to come throw us a few first-round picks or something.
Yeah,
that would be
which isn't going to happen.
No chance.
Yeah, I think that's potentially what has been happening.
Yeah.
Hey, you want Trey Hendrickson? Sweet. We need four ones. We're not going to do that.
Oh, we got to pay him too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do it. You guys said.
I think Cincy very similar to Derek Carr's situation in New Orleans, where Cincy will pay him if they have to, but if someone's willing to overpay and give him a couple first, they'll do that too. Just like the Saints with Derek Carr. Yeah, they're probably going to pay Derek, or they're probably going to keep Derek Carr and then figure it out and restructure and all that stuff moving forward. But if someone's dumb enough to say, we'll give you a first, we'll give you a couple seconds, we'll give you, whatever, they'll offload him that way too. So same with Trey Hendrickson, where I think the Bengals' plan is to pay him, but if a team said, we'll give you a couple firsts, then they would say, okay, well, damn, that kind of solves our problem because we can try and just more chances to nail these draft picks.
You want them? We have them.
What DK go for? DK Metcalf, a different position?
Second.
But, yeah, okay.
Well, everybody wants a first and something. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden reality sets in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, we'll take a second. Yeah, we'll take a second. We'll do that for sure. And then some guys go for an absurd haul.
Oh, yeah.
You are exactly what you're worth, and your worth is what somebody's willing to give.
Yeah.
And that is just kind of how it all works out.
Yeah, good stuff. I mean, congratulations, Cincy. I think that's the way to do it. I'm not a I'm not a salary cap truther. People who believe the salary cap is Bible or whatever, like, I think it's the dumbest thing in the world. You want your team to spend money, 100%. You want to max out your credit. You want to max out your salary cap. You want to kick the can as far down as you can. You want to restructure as much as you can. You want to manipulate as much as you can. You don't get any extra wins for being blank number under the cap. So this is how you do it. I hear people all the time who are like, well, how do we know the Saints aren't going to mess the cap up in 2027, 2028? And it's like, well, what do you mean by mess the cap up? Do you mean spend it? Because you want to spend it. The question is, are you spending it on the right players? And that's a different conversation. So I don't think anybody's going to argue that Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, and Trey Hendrickson aren't the right players. The question is now, okay, you got your core. Are you good enough from a talent development side? Are you good enough from a drafting side to find the value like Philadelphia did? We'll see. All right, let me know in the comments below what you think. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.